Boy, y'all really liked that soldier video. What's the plant version of soldier? Did you say corn? You're wrong! Get out now! If you said pea shooter, correct. You get nothing. Today I'm going to be ranking all the pea shooters the same way I did the chompers and the soldiers. If you've seen the past two videos, you get how this works. I rank them on gameplay, and then I rank them on design. 2 tier lists in one video. For you. Let's get right into this. Our first pea shooter is of course the stock variant of the class. Pea shooter being a mobile, assault-based plant wielding the pea cannon, which of course shoots peas. Dealing 35 damage for a direct shot and between 15 to 10 damage for a blast radius, which helps this character in securing kills. While he is sort of a brain-dead, easy character, as all you have to do is shoot the floor around the zombie, pair this with his ability Hyper, which makes him such a skillless fucking character, but also making him quite good at scaring zombies that aren't as good as shooting you while you jump up and down. Like tank commander. Reg P as a stock variant deals really high damage, being the second most of all pea shooters, and having all around solid DPS, mobility, reload and ammo. While he's a bit boring to play, I'm gonna have to put him into B tier for his all around usefulness. He's not the best, absolutely not the worst, but he's solid enough. While in terms of Garden Warfare design standards, he is as plain can get. He is the plant's version of the soldier, the Reg soldier to be exact. While being a great faithful 3D representation of the pea shooter in PvZ1, he looks quite good in 3D. Giving him arms, which are pea pods, which is his ammo compartment, is a creative and funny way of explaining why this guy has hands now. While color-wise is as green as the plants can get, it doesn't add nor take away from his appearance. While his eyes are certainly not appealing to look at, the semi-realistic design of pea shooter causes him to appear more freakishly menacing than you'd expect. You tell me if you saw this staring at you, you wouldn't feel like you're about to be devoured. Reg P is fine, not extremely eyeballing of a character, but not boringly sleep-worthy like a few others in this game. He goes into C tier. Like Reg Foot Soldier, he's the foundation of the class, meant to look standard. He's not good, but he's not bad. He's just alright. Overall, no strong opinions. Our first variant is the fire element pea shooter, so cleverly named the Fire Pea. Fire Pea is as copy and paste as most pea shooters are, shooting the same pea projectiles but set aflame, dealing less impact damage with the uphand of the added fire damage. Fire Pea just exists, honestly. He fits the checkboard for fire variant pea shooters and that's really it. You don't get anything other than that. Yeah, for a few peas here and there. They act all so similar, I wouldn't even doubt you thinking they all play the same. Add element to pea minus damage, there you go, you got a variant. Don't worry though, there are a few interesting variants to talk about. For his decrease in damage and added fire damage, which doesn't do much for this class as a fire variant, it's so significantly weak compared to his regular damage output that it feels sort of worse than Reg P. I'm gonna put Fire P into C tier as well. Not bad or really that good either, just an alternate Reg P shooter with added fire damage. I'm not a fan of this variant to be honest. Fire P was also an original pea shooter variant from the original PvZ2, being a premium plant looking like this. Also, the first pea shooter to be confirmed as female. Well, that's kinda cool. But how did they adapt her into Garden Warfare 2? Okay. Yeah, this is just not the same Fire P. This Fire P is a dude, and he's balding. Fire P in Garden Warfare 2 looks like if Reg P was burnt alive, somehow didn't die, and they receded his hairline. The colours of fire elemental characters in Garden Warfare 2 don't look all that appealing, just being a mixture of different shades of oranges and yellows with a bit of red in there, but at least his eyes have gone from the soulless 1,000-mile stare pupils into a fiery hell. He looks slightly better than Reg P, but for a fire variant adaptation, Fire P was done dirty. Still looks okay for a fire variant, but does not look like the original Fire P. Going to put this imposter of a PvZ2 plant in C tier as well. He looks a little off, but for a fire variant, looks okay. Not terrible, but doesn't do much for what it's showing off. Following the trope of elemental clones, Fire P but cold. Ice Pea also originating as an original PvZ plant, shooting peas that slow down zombies they impact. In Garden Warfare 2, they do the same. Ice Pea is almost identical to Fire Pea in terms of reload, rate of fire and damage, without the added fire, but instead the freezing ability, which is marginally more useful than fire damage, as ice can slow zombies before completely freezing them. Direct shots can cause the freeze quicker, but you can still freeze them with splash damage. It just takes longer, and by longer, it takes a lot longer. Something you probably don't know about about ice characters is that they can only freeze a certain opponent every 10 seconds. This doesn't affect groups of zombies who all get their own freeze cooldown. Ice Pea's ice cannon is an easy primary to use, so freezing zombies as Ice Pea is probably one of the easier ice variants to do so with. While his splash is slightly less consistent than other Peas, relying on direct hits to deal the most damage and quickly freeze enemies, and quickest freeze time, he does a great job at what he wants to do, being the only bunny hopping freeze character. I'm putting Ice Pea into A tier, just barely managing to get up there. While the damage isn't as high as Reg Pea or Fire Pea from his lack of overtime damage, he has the added bonus of being an ice variant and being very mobile, which gives him the edge. Ice Pea looks identical to the PvZ version, being a Reg Pea shooter, just blue, and instead of leaves on his head has icicles instead. I think does a great job at showing just how cold he actually is. His pea pods freezing more the further they go up till they completely frozen at the end. Like Fire Pea, it's very similar to Reg Pea, which just added element spice to them. One thing I'm not doing is comparing all variants to their Garden Warfare 1 counterparts. But here, I will say how Ice Pea in this game looks far more desaturated compared to Ice Pea in Garden Warfare 1. Just look at the difference between them and tell me which one you'd prefer. Also, the pupils changing from brown to blue is a pointless but nice addition to differ up the variants from one another. It's simple and I like it. I'm going to put Ice Pea into B tier for design. Reg Pea redesign done right. Not so much that the character shines on their own, but has enough to make them stand out. Also looking accurate to the original PvZ1, Fire Pea, and not even PvZ1, PvZ2, is a needed addition for these variants. On to our next, oh god! Now, Toxic Pea is another elemental pea shooter. However, while he's very similar in terms of being a clone variant with the added elemental ability slapped on, this guy puts Toxic in his name and capitalizes it and then turns it onto font size 72. Toxic Pea not only deals toxic damage to zombies via his primary, but just by standing near them, but his primary splash damage and radius is also doubled. This guy hasn't taken a bath in so long that he deals damage just standing next to someone. What makes Toxic Pea so good is his insane damage spread capabilities, plus his splash radius that is so large he doesn't even need to be that accurate and deal consistent damage to you from anywhere on the map. Obviously this isn't exactly true. Mind you, that damage is not that good, dealing at max the same damage as Fire and Ice Pea, with the downside his radius damage scale is lower but larger, not doing as much splash damage but in a big and larger radius. This means Toxic Pea is more annoying than anything. Mind you, he still has the ability to bounce like Bugs fucking Bunny and hit you from anywhere while you struggle to fit your crosshair on him while he jumps up and down for 7 seconds. Toxic overall is probably in the running for the best splash pea shooter, as the good peas aren't all that reliant on splash damage to get the job done. Toxic Pea, however, goes into A tier. Damage output isn't insane for single target, but crowd damage exceeds all the other pea shooters. Our first pea shooter to shy away from looking like a copy and paste while having actual differences to him. Okay, he still looks mostly the same, however. Toxic's design is one of my personal favorites. As he's a toxic character, he simply just has a gas mask on. However, since he's a pea shooter and not human, his mouth just rips through the end of it, making it useless. This is a detail I've always liked about this character. The fact that it almost looks like 3 Peter from PvZ1 with the 3 ends of the character's face is a good detail. Even if it wasn't, intended, I still like this. Also being a more illuminated version of Reg Pea, supporting a brighter and glowier green color palette, and his eyes this time around looking like the original Xbox intro. His stem and feet leaves, I don't know what to call them, being brighter and the veins in them being more exposed due to radiation is a good touch. He also stinks because he's toxic. Toxic Pea has the ideal design for a perfect toxic pea shooter that could possibly be a thing. He's easily going to go into S tier for the mask alone. Possibly one of my favorite pea shooter designs in the entire game. Our next Pea is the first one to have a different primary attack instead of being a single shot cannon that deals high levels of splash damage. Commando Pea has an automatic cannon, shooting 30 shots in a clip that deal anywhere between 6 to 12 damage from all ranges. Commando Pea is the soldier equivalent of a pea shooter, being a good counter for them, as his projectiles travel further and quicker. Also his rate of fire is slower than most automatic characters. The damage and minimal recoil helps him in many fights on rooftops or in and across map fights. However, the classic hyper plus A button maneuver won't work unless you have the aim of someone who hasn't been in near contact with the sun's rays in many decades. While his crowd control isn't at all good, being more of a single target based character, he doesn't do a great job in defense scenarios at all. Other than his bean bomb being good for tackling multiple zombies, that can be said for really any pea shooter. While different to his other pea brothers, mostly isn't any better than them, just another version of Reg Pea. Does everything he can't do better and everything Reg Pea can do works. Gonna have to put put Commando in B tier alongside Reg P, just a primary switch character with no real gimmick, which isn't bad, but not much more than that. Can get the job done in fights against single zombies, but starts to weaken against crowds of them. While there's only 2 Commando themed plants in the game, this one gives off another Rambo vibe like Super Commando. Wearing the bandana while rocking a buzz cut, similar to Super Commando, also his hair just being grass, which is just stupid looking. Commando also wearing war paint in terms of just minimal strokes under his eyes. Other than that, it's just the same as Reg P with his mouth shortened and looks like the end of an SMG. Nice change of scenery in the pea shooter department when looking at all of this at the same time, but he looks kind of bland compared to the other characters. Just a different head with a shortened end than usual. Legit, just a pea shooter, but less. He's gonna go into C tier for design. Nothing really here to wow you, just kind of imagine a pea shooter but he went to war and didn't look cool, he just looked aight. He can sit comfortably here. Okay, 5 down, but before we cover the next 5 pea shooters, you see that? Go on. I'll let you hit it. Go ahead. One time. Go on. There you go, thank you. Similar to Commando being a single shot, no splash dealing primary character, our next character is also single shot based. Agent P shoots silent peas that deal exactly 2 times damage when headshotted. You ever play Fortnite back in the day? 2 times headshot multiplier? Yeah, that was fun. Do we have that anymore? Do we? Agent P's damage output is so incredibly high in this game, they have to reduce 25 health from him, making him the lowest health pea shooter, but this doesn't really do that much to the character overall. Having a quick reload, high magazine size, and dealing enough damage in the clip drop any character on the opposing team. The game also says his shots are silent, which they don't feel like they are. Shooting zombies from across the map will be easier than most, as his shots won't be heard as they hit zombies. As simple as I can put it, this P is basically a silenced pistol. His damage output and fire rate makes him one of the best characters in the game. His only downside is his insanely tight spread and high accuracy. Can be hard to hit zombies if you're, well, bad, or if they're up close right in your face or running around you. Agent P is just gonna simply go into S tier, no doubt. Being tied for the best pea shooter in the game. You ever watch 007? Yeah, Agent P is clearly a parody on James Bond, as a sticker book description states he is the only character in the entire game who has a legal license to kill, making this game a lot darker if you think about it. Agent P's slick black hair, which is probably a wig, and his giant suppressor, which looks like, a booth. Insert smoking pea shooter image here. He also wearing a bow tie and his buttoned sleeves on his pods, a simple yet very classy and elegant variant design. Alongside Toxic P is one of the go-to pea shooters people will think about when they think of this class, and for that he's also going into S tier with Toxic P, just a plant designing masterclass. Similarly to Agent, we have our second pistol type character in this class. The Law P shoots exactly the same way as Agent. Okay, maybe there's more. His rate of fire is quicker than Agent, but he deals less damage and only has 6 shots. Oh, wait a minute, no, he's a 6 shooter. Oh, I get it now. That's a reference. Okay, so my theory for why they decided to add this variant in the Zomboss Down update back in the Garden Warfare 1 days is because I think after they programmed the Agent P, they thought that his primary was similar to a trigger finger weapon and went, shit, we could have made him a revolver. So they reprogrammed him as a Law P, basically Control C, Control V. I'm gonna get some proper shit for basically saying he's a copy and paste. My chair needs to shut up. Law P as a character has one of the highest DPSs of all these characters, so he's insane. His shots projectile speed are as quick as they can get, almost being hit scanned from across the map. Like Agent, but with less ammo and a higher DPS. Not as deadly as Agent P in every single scenario, while being a more on the move run and gun pea shooter than Agent P, I think he's all around a little bit weaker. He's gonna go into A tier, just a slight bit behind Agent and barely makes it out of S tier. Still a top 5 pea shooter for his skill potential. Law P also got nose surgery like Agent P, since his primary being called the 6 shooter, his face represents a revolver, accompanied with his sheriff hat and sheriff Woody badge, and the arrow piercing through his hat with an American flag quill on it. A pea shooter with facial hair? Sure, why not? Him having the old court judge hair and twirly stash adds to his sheriff look. With pea pods being gun holsters is a really neat idea. Also rocking a belt on his stem, Rango style. Other than these cosmetics, he's fairly similar to the colour scheme and design of Reg P, just with an elongated nose. I'm losing my voice. Gonna give Law P an A tier in design. You can feel this guy winning in any gun duel. See, I know I've said a lot less about the pea shooters than I have compared to the soldiers and chombers, but Frankly, there's just not much to say about these guys, to be honest. So if any of these have been a bit short, I apologize. I'm also just kind of, in the meantime of recording this, just struggling a bit for time. So if I'm a bit quick and I speak fast, I want to apologize. Now for everyone's favourite little plasmatic discharger. Plasma Pea fires peas that can be charged for higher damage. You can fire them in quick succession via spam, or charge them for maximum damage, with 2 levels of added charge. When charged for around a second, the peas can deal up to 48 damage and have a larger splash radius, with the level 3 dealing a max of 78 damage to the noggin and having splash of about 30 damage. Plasma Pea, however, is single-handedly the best charged character overall. Not due to his damage, but due to how he disobeys the charging mechanics other charge characters have to deal with. What do I mean by this? Let me explain. Most charge characters have a system where the higher the charge, the slower they move, and the more ammo the shots take, and taking away the ability to jump when these shots are fully charged. However, Plasma Pea completely disregards this rule, being able to run just as fast and jump while holding a fully charged shot, also only requiring 1 ammo for his maximum charge. So why is Plasma like this? I don't actually know, but I'd like to think it may be due to the fact that he was the first ever chargeable primary in Garden Warfare, which wasn't fully thought out. Also, everyone got Plasma for free, so... But even in Garden Warfare 2, where you have to actually unlock him, they didn't opt to change this to match the other charge characters, so Plasma still remains supreme. Plasma overall is great at dealing with all zombies and can drop everyone, even some lower health Z-Mechs. Gonna have to put Plasma into S tier as well, my personal favourite pea shooter of this class, and definitely a highlight on the Plants team overall. I got a comment on my Chomper video that said, just from you putting Armored Chomper's design into the Get Out tier, I don't think you like future look characters. I still play Armored Chomper because he's one of my favourite plants, and I love playing his shitty plants or unpopular ones. First of all, based. Second of all, I don't think Armored Chomper really fits as a future look character. But that's an interesting opinion to have, and honestly, all the power to you, my friend. However, Plasma is a future look character in Garden Warfare 1, because here he looks less cool. Plasma Pea in Garden Warfare 2 is more electric styled than he appears in the previous game, which in that game had this beautiful dark navy colour scheme and these space particles that made him stand out from the rest of the cast. In this game, he looks less real good, just not as mesmerising as he did in Garden Warfare 1. Plasma being fully dark blue and space-like is a grand design. His eyes looking like black holes and his pea pods glowing upwards like a power surge is a great touch. Also, keeping the stars and space particles on a base design, while they don't look nearly as good as they do in Garden Warfare 1, they still look amazing in this game. I'm gonna have to put Plasma only into A tier though. Top tier design, but just got butchered from the previous game. And yes, I still think this is a future look character, because in solo play, if you go to the team setup, there's a setting called Future Fighters, and look, he's there. And I mean, so is Armored Chomper, but my opinion says that he's not a future look character, so suck it. Your opinion to think I don't like future look characters is fine. For our first Garden Warfare 2 variant, we have one of the developers' clever and funny ideas for a variant. Hey, what if we have a pea shooter that has more health but moves slower? Rock Pea is the Armored Chomper of this class, having an extra 25 health, but moving at the pace of Granny on ice. Rock Pea deals damage in 2 integers, them being 20 impact damage and 12 splash damage. His extra health doesn't do much, as he is still vulnerable from many insta-kill abilities, and has less movement speed, so he gets caught by these abilities more often, as he has no real way of getting out of these situations. Not even Hyper can save him from this one. He moves at 5.81 meters a second, which is 0.64 meters slower than all of our previous pea shooters, with a speed upgrade upping that to 6.1 meters, making him just barely slower. This doesn't really do much other than being slightly frustrating, which is the worst type of frustrating because you can easily fix it, but you don't. See, these armor classes are all flawed. I think if they were ever, which they won't, get reworked, they should have the same HP and movement speed as everyone else, but have a 15% damage reduction all around, making them last slightly longer than the average plant, without them being, you know, bullshit annoying to play. Rock isn't a waste of a slot, as he is still a pea shooter, he's got the bomb, he's got the gun, so he isn't an F tier plant, but he sure is a D tier plant. All around shit, looks and all. Speaking of shit looks, as Wolfie said it best,
Rock Pea just looks like a crusty turd.
which is true, but I don't dislike this design. I think it looks like ass, straight out of Uneven, but it just looks so dumb I can't explain it. Maybe it's the bunny ears he's got, or his serious looking eyes. You're telling me to be serious when you look like this? If you look at it, it looks like he's doing the rock eyebrow thing. Like I mentioned with Arctic Trooper in the last video, Rock Pea also makes unique walking sounds, being like heavy, chunky sounds rather than leaves rustling on the ground. Rock Pea gets a lot of shit for being shit, quite definitely and literally in looks and gameplay, but I like him for trying. Rock Pea just barely escapes D tier for me, but he goes into C tier for looks. PopCap missed with this design by not making him rock colors, aka grey, but I guess that would have actually kind of made him look a bit more boring, so I guess shit color was the best thing you could have done.
I knew this day would come, for my sins have finally caught up to me. Forgive me, Lord. My mortal existence has been merely futile. My ways of living have hurt millions. Forgive me, for I was an EP man.
But back in the day I was, not anymore. EP. Everyone in their family knows this character. For his brain dead, his toxicity, his hyperactivity. Electro Pea is one of the single most busted plants in the game due to manual detonation. Electro deals the highest single shot damage of all pea shooters at 43 damage to the head, while his projectile speed is slower than most. This causes the manual detonation feature to be easier to control. The manual detonation explosive damage is anywhere from mid 20 damage in the center to about under 10 the further out. This doesn't sound bad, until you factor that he shoots infinitely. Well, sort of. EP gets 2 reload upgrades like every soldier in the fucking game, and an ammo upgrade, which causes his shots to go from 8 to 9 per clip, and his reload to be only 0.96 seconds, which means your reload is basically as fast as you can fire. Plus, the electric ability, which is the weakest one of all the abilities in my opinion, but this causes EP to hit multiple zombies per shot with the chain lightning. Plus, the use of hyper, making you impossible to hit while you can hit zombies without aiming properly, and you have an S tier pea shooter. There is a reason he is at the bottom of the pea shooter character selection tab, as the game just doesn't want you to be a scumbag and pick him. If someone is giving you a hard day, pull out the Electro Pea and make their life a misery. Looks wise, he's actually alright. The added lightning strikes on his head and eyebrows not being physical lightning, but rather like a mask, is actually a better design choice in my opinion. His eyes also having this almost buzzing surface to them. His pea pods being transparent and having his stem being twirly and sharp like bolts of lightning is a great detail. I mentioned in the Chomper video that the power and electro plants in Garden Warfare 2 have their colours become more saturated. It just doesn't seem to be as cool here. But in Electro Pea's case, it works well for his character design. Also having power surging through his leaves as the classical staple of an electric character. While all of this looks great, he is majorly just one colour and that's it. Just a few shades of blue like Power Chomper and nothing more. Electro goes into A tier for me. Personally, he looks great. Not as cool as Plasma, just a little bit behind, but still in the same tier. Pea shooters were once my most played class in Garden Warfare 2. But that role got beaten by the Chompers, as I didn't want to play them, but I had to for max rank, and then proceeded to procrastinate on all of them for about a year before just a few weeks ago I managed to reach rank 5455. But pea shooters are almost nostalgic to me when I play them. The memories of playing characters like EP, TP and Plasma, just annoying people without even realising it back in the day, not even thinking, what the fuck am I doing? I'm being a scumbag, is probably some of the most nostalgic feeling I've had in this game. While some of the peas are utterly stupid, some are kind of most of them are sort of mediocre. Fire and Ice Pea are prime examples of what a variant shouldn't do, which is being just a copy and paste of the stock variant. Their primary should have been a little bit different. Like Fire Pea should have probably implemented like a burst fire feature like Repeater from PvZ1, or Ice Pea should have had a similar rapid fire primary to Commando, or vice versa, or whatever you can think that isn't just the same as regular pea shooter. Just these little changes between variants could have made them feel way more original to play, but I digress. Overall, without including Hyper, the pea shooters are all mostly okay. I'm actually now going to start a new list at the end of each of these videos, compiling all the classes into their own big tier list, which will show what classes I think are overall great, okay, or kinda shitty. But for now, I'll put pea shooter into B tier, with soldier in S, and chomper in D. Let me know what you think. As every YouTuber ever has to say this at the end of a list video, comment below what you think of my list. Did I butcher your favorite pea shooter, Rock Pea? We'll be migrating to the zombie side next video, covering a certain chunky boy with his big boat blaster. But that's all from me. And if I don't see you,
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.